Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and you're very welcome to the draw for the 2023 Smith Monumentals Intermediate Football Championship and the Connacht Gold Senior Football Championship. Sorry and apologies for being a little bit late, but we were held up because the Masonite Division 1 League final went to extra time, and it was won by Fina St. Callion's with victory over St. Mary's. But anyway, on to the business of this evening's draw. And just to explain to you, I suppose, the format of the draw as such. We will have 10 teams in the Smith Monumentals draw, and we'll have 10 teams in the Connacht Gold Senior Football Championship draw. The draws will follow the same pattern. And I suppose it's fair to say that what's happening is in the first round, we will be drawing out 5 teams to play in the home slots first. So the first 5 teams will be drawn out to play in game number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then they will be followed by the drawing of the next 5 teams from 6 to 10, which will fill the slots of the remaining games or will fulfill the games in the structure of the first round. So I'm joined here by the chairman of Leitrim County Board, Enda Stenson, who will supervise the draw, and by the chairman of Leitrim CCC, Seamus McManus, and secretary of the CCC, Vincie O'Rourke, who will conduct the draw. So I think we're good to go with the Smith Monumentals Intermediate Football Championship, and I will ask Seamus to hold up the balls, and the first ball drawn out will become home team number 1 in the Smith Monumentals Intermediate Championship.
Drumreilly.
And that team is Drumreilly. So I'll ask you now to pull out the second team, and this team will also be the second home game. Ballinadlera. The third team out, Allen Gales. And we'll move on to pull out the fourth home team, Kiltubbert. And finally, the fifth home team, Carrigallen. So just to explain to you again, we have the first 5 teams drawn out to have home games from Drumreilly, Ballinadlera, Allen Gales, Kiltubbert, and Carrigallen. And the 6th team that comes out, it's drawn out, will complete the fixture. They'll be the first away team, and they will play Drumreilly. Ahavas. So a local derby of sorts for Drumreilly versus Ahavas. And the second team out, Melvin Gales will play Ballinadlera. So just 1 second now till we get that sorted out. So it's Ballinadlera versus Melvin Gales in game number 2. And game number 3, Allen Gales versus Bornacoola. So we move on to the 4th game, which is Kiltubbert will play Anaduff. And finally, Carrigallen will play Drumkeeran. So if we could just recap over that draw. In game number 1, Drumreilly will play Ahavas, Ballinadlera will play Melvin Gales, Allen Gales will play Bornacoola, Kiltubbert will play Anaduff, and Carrigallen will play Drumkeeran. And that concludes the draw for round 1 of the Intermediate Football Championship. And just to explain to you before we start the Connacht Senior Football Championship draw, that in round 2, the 5 teams from Drumreilly, Ballinadlera, Allen Gales, Kiltubbert, and Carrigallen will all be away in round 2, and Ahavas, Melvin Gales, Bornacoola, Anaduff, and Drumkeeran will all be at home. So without further ado, we will move on to the draw for the Connacht Gold Senior Football Championship, which follows exactly the same format. So the first 5 teams will be drawn out and will play at home. The first team out is
Sean O'Hestlins.
Ballinamore, Sean O'Hestlins. And the second team out will be at home, and that is Gortlettra with a home game in game number 2. And game number 3, Fina St. Callion's play at home in game number 3, and they will be followed by Drumahare St. Patrick's will play in game number 4. And finally, the last home game is Ahawillan. So just to recap, the 5 home teams in the gap in those games are Ballinamore, Sean O'Hestons, Gortletra, Fianna St. Callans, Drumahare, St. Patrick's, and Ahowillan. And the 6th team to be drawn out will now play Ballinamore, Sean O'Hestons.
Aucknasheelan.
Aucknasheelan, a local derby. Aucknasheelan versus Ballinamore, Sean O'Hestons. Gortletra will play St. Mary's Kiltahart. And the 3rd team out,
Leitrim Gales.
Fianna St. Callans will take on Leitrim Gales. Up 2 teams after the group stages last year. And Drumahare St. Patrick's will have a home game against Mohill. And finally, Ahowillan will play Bencar Manor Campbelltown. So, if I could just recap on that, the 5 games in the first round of the Senior Connacht Gold Senior Football Championship will be Ballinamore Sean O'Hestons versus Aucknasheelan, Gortletra versus St. Mary's Kiltahart, Fianna St. Callans versus Leitrim Gales, and Drumahare versus Mohill, and Ahowillan versus Glencar Manor Hamilton. And that concludes the 2 draws for round 1 of the Senior Connacht Gold Senior Football Championship and the Smith Monumentals Intermediate Football Championship for 2023. And we will be back at some stage next weekend, most likely Sunday afternoon, with the draw for round 2. So I'd like to thank my assistants here for going through this draw with you, and it'll be over to the CCC to put the fixtures together, and I'm sure they will be sent out in time and timely details. So Garamila Mahagav Galair, and we'd like to wish all of the teams the very best of luck in both competitions going forward.